The Russian government has all but put the blame on Ukraine for the terrorist attack in Moscow on March 22nd. At first, Vladimir Putin cautiously mentioned some sort of window on the Russia-Ukraine border that was prepared for the terrorists by the Ukrainian side. Now, he's more confident in the theory. Putin linked the mass shooting of civilians at the Krakow City Hall concert venue to the Ukrainian attacks on the border regions of Russia.
This atrocity could be only one link in a whole chain of attempts committed by those who have been fighting us using the neo-Nazi regime in Kiev since 2014.
ISIS or Ukraine?
Ukraine, of course.
Even though Russian officials are certain that the tragedy at Krakow City Hall was Ukraine's doing, there are quite a few issues with the theory. Let's dive in. Authorities arrested suspects in the case of the terrorist attack at the Krakow City Hall. The alleged perpetrators of the crime are sent into custody by the Basmanny District Court. 4 citizens of Tajikistan were the first to be put behind bars. They were subjected to severe torture both during and after their detention. The law enforcers do not hide this, and Telegram channels close to them publish videos and photos of their unlawful and gruesome behavior. One of the suspects arrived in the courtroom in a wheelchair and unconscious. All of the detained have hematomas and lumps on their faces from the beatings. 2 of the suspects admitted the crime.
When admissions of guilt are gained through torture, it not only violates the rights of the suspects, but of the victims as well, in my opinion. We will never know who is truly responsible for this crime if suspects are tortured and admit to whatever their torturers want them to admit.
The day after the terrorist attack, the Federal Security Bureau reported that it detained 11 suspects, 4 of whom are claimed to have been the shooters that entered the concert venue. Soon after, 3 more people were arrested. They are charged with aiding and abetting the terrorists, for example, providing them the getaway vehicle. Those were not the last of arrests, and the investigation and trials are still ongoing. This is Dilavar Islamov, the owner of the white Renault sedan in which the terrorists drove to the concert venue and which they used to flee the crime scene. Dilavar's father and brother Israel and Amishon have also been arrested in connection with this case. Dilavar, however, told Novaya Gazeta Europe that he has sold the vehicle to his wife's brother a week prior, and one of the perpetrators stated that his acquaintance Abdullah had procured the vehicle for him. They got to know each other about 10 or 12 days before the terrorist attack.
It was my car and I was shocked. I tried calling my wife's brother, but he wouldn't pick up. He said his friend needed the car.
According to the Islamov brothers, they turned themselves into the police as soon as they saw their car featured in the media. The first footage was published the night after the terrorist attack. The media outlet Agency found out that the terrorists were fleeing Moscow on the M3 highway, one of the arterial roads of the European part of Russia. They managed to travel 300 kilometers, breaking the speed limit most of the way before being arrested the next day. Although the media had published information regarding the vehicle on the night of the attack at 10:51 p.m. on March 22nd.
The special services are searching for a white sedan, which is believed to have been the vehicle that the terrorists used to escape after committing the mass shooting at Krakow City Hall.
How did the terrorists manage to escape? The terrorists opened fire outside of the concert venue at 7:58 p.m. when some of the audience had already entered the building and the rest were queued up outside awaiting admittance. No one was capable of neutralizing the attackers. The security guards were hiding. They were unarmed.
I just can't believe that there were no so-called authorities there. It was a mass event and there wasn't even a single policeman around. At the same time, when I went to Alexei Navalny's funeral, there were like 100 police trucks and a whole crowd of law enforcement. They stretched 3 or 4 kilometers from the Mar'ino metro station to the Borisovo cemetery.
This wasn't nearly my first time attending a concert at the Crocus, so I can tell you that the security aspect has always been like this. They ask you to take all metallic objects out of your pockets, go through a metal detector, and show them the inside of your bag. They would just take a glance and let you go. No thorough checks. And it's always been like that. That night the security protocols clearly weren't any different.
According to Mikhail, who was one of the first to get out of the Crocus, the police arrived at about 15 minutes after the terrorist attack began. The Interior Ministry in turn says that the law enforcers were there earlier, at 8:06 p.m. The terrorists, according to the Telegram channel Mesh, left Crocus at 8:13 p.m. What were the police doing for 7 minutes, especially taking into account that the building of Crocus houses the police precinct for the nearby Pavshino neighborhood? The anonymous Telegram channel VCK OGPU reported that the police officers from that precinct fled, saving themselves. It was reported that the Special Rapid Response Unit and the Special Purposes Unit of the police were deployed only at 8:33 p.m. over half an hour after the terrorist attack commenced. The Crocus was besieged and stormed only 70 minutes after the terrorists fled the crime scene. Those who were able to evade the terrorists had to make it out of the building on their own without any instructions from the rescue services.
We got out of the building through some basement areas. There are still people in the foyer. Please do something. Call ambulances. Call the police.
Another eyewitness, Mikhail, also found himself at the epicenter of the attack but was lucky to survive as he was seated in the mezzanine section, whereas the terrorists entered the concert hall through the main floor and began shooting people who were seated in that area.
We heard multiple rounds of machine gun fire inside the concert hall, and then everything went silent. I whispered to the others and urged them, "Come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. We need to get the hell out of here." There was panic and screaming. Some people were discussing the best routes to escape. I saw 4 or 5 girls going to hide in the bathroom. I screamed at them, "Are you out of your mind? We have got to go while they haven't made it here yet. If you go in there, you're never coming out." I said, "Let's go, come on." So we went down on an escalator, and in the foyer downstairs we could already see bodies and blood all over. The same could have been seen outside. Some guy was dragging a girl with a trail of blood behind her. Trying not to step on anyone, I rushed out of the building and bolted towards the ring road.
On the evening of March 25th, Vladimir Putin acquiesced. The terrorist attack was committed, quote, using radical Islamists. However, later he claimed that we still don't know who was behind the attack, but it was beneficial for Kyiv and the so-called collective West. Earlier, this version began being spread by the Kremlin propagandists.
It is an undeniable fact that the terrorists were seeking refuge in Ukraine. Having committed their crime, they drove out in the direction of the Russia-Ukraine border.
Organizations in general, terrorist organizations included, tend not to claim responsibility for actions committed by other organizations. The hypothesis that they were trying to flee to Ukraine doesn't really conflict with them being ISIS fighters. The fact that they were trying to flee Russia is self-evident.
The terrorists were apprehended 150 kilometers from the Ukraine border and 190 kilometers from the Belarus border. There is no concrete proof that they were headed for Ukraine specifically. They were arrested in the Bryansk region, which borders both Ukraine and Belarus. The Belarus Special Services allegedly assisted in the arrests. Moreover, the dictator of Belarus, Lukashenko, even claimed that the terrorists were headed for Belarus and not Ukraine. Kyiv denies any responsibility for this terrorist attack.
We stand firmly on pro-Ukrainian grounds, and that means that we need to secure a good relationship with our Western partners, including but not limited to their military support of Ukraine. This is why it would make no sense for us to commit any acts of terror in Moscow, as it would not solve any problems that we in Ukraine are currently facing.
The US also denied Kyiv's involvement. Back on March 22nd, sources in the American government told the media that ISIS was behind the attack. Later, the official White House openly confirmed that statement. Representatives in Washington reminded that the US, along with other Western countries, alerted the Russian government of potential attacks that extremists might commit in Moscow.
There have been arrests of members of certain ISIS units in Russia. This means that the FSB was sure that they knew where the danger was coming from and commenced the arrests.
Terrorist attacks of this kind are almost impossible to prevent, because in organizing such attacks, the information is usually too dispersed among the members of the organization, so a full picture is extremely difficult to see.
The dossier agency reports the Russian special services were aware of the terrorist threats coming from ISIS. They even received warning that citizens of Tajikistan may or may not be involved in upcoming attacks. The Russian special forces have been keeping an eye on the Afghan terrorist group ISIS-K, which subsequently claimed responsibility for the attack on the Crocus City Hall.
Based in Afghanistan, and as I mentioned before, their enemy, the Taliban. They have every incentive and every motive to attack Russia. If you look at the propaganda coming out of ISIS-K, they've been targeting Putin and Russia specifically for months. A target is its cooperation with the Taliban in Afghanistan. ISIS-K is ranged militarily against the Taliban.
One of the accused of committing the terrorist attack, Shamsiddin Faridouni, after being arrested, claimed that he was offered 500,000 rubles, around $5,400, to commit the crime by a preacher's aide on Telegram.
ISIS is a network that often recruits adherents literally via anonymous messages in Telegram. It is enough to research this phenomenon a little bit to realize that the level of scrutiny towards information on Telegram is not very high among these people.
According to the dossier agency, ISIS-K attempted terrorist attacks in Austria, Germany, and Kyrgyzstan. They even planned an attack in France, according to President Emmanuel Macron. Thankfully, all of these attacks have been prevented.